Hello everyone. Welcome to Gardening for Better Health. This is Henry B. 723 coming to you today from my kitchen / gardening workstation. It's good to see you here. Glad you could make it. Hope everything is going well for you. Here we're doing great. It's still cold outside. It's February and we're not looking to get rid of the snow anytime soon. We've got maybe 4 inches of snow outside and it's cold. Hopefully tomorrow things will start to melt, but that's okay because we can still work inside, and that's a big plus. Have you started your tomatoes yet? I know it's February, and depending on where you are, you may have already started your tomatoes and they may be doing well. Here in my zone, it doesn't really get warm here. My last frost date is in early May. So I start everything inside as much as I can and get them up and growing. And so that by the time the last frost date comes, they're already a good size because they've been pre-planted, and I just transplant them outdoors. Some things. I know of a type of tomato that I can plant indoors, and this tomato does not get too large to be indoors. It is a fabulous bush tomato, and it is a determinate tomato. So this bush tomato that is determinate actually only grows to be about 3 feet tall. So it's not too large to be planted and grown and harvested indoors, depending on how much space you have. I have a decent amount of space, but not a huge amount of space indoors where my grow table is, but I do have enough space so that once I plant these tomatoes, I can raise them from seed and transplant them up to a bigger pot, and then transplant them up to a bigger pot and harvest them from there until it's time for them to expire for the season. It's a determinate plant, as I said, and because it's determinate, it will give me a harvest of tomatoes in a big flush when it does mature. And as those tomatoes begin to flush when they're ready, you can pick them. You can pick and come back and come back and come back. And then you're subject to get from this particular plant a second flush, which is really, really nice. And you can pick those and pick those and pick those until they're almost gone. And if you're lucky, you may get a third flush for that year. But after that third flush is done, okay? And it won't get too humongous and be in the way while all of this is happening. This is good for me since it's so late in the year when I can actually put anything outside. So this particular tomato that I'm talking about, it's called a Tiny Tim tomato. And this is the Tiny Tim tomato here. I planted it from seed, and I'm looking at my tag. It was planted originally on January 19th this year. And in just that amount of time, from January 19th to today, which is mid-February, it is now this size, okay? So it grew quite a bit during that time, and it's big enough where I can actually transplant it from this little pot to a larger pot. So that's what I'm doing today. The tomatoes on this Tiny Tim tomato, they're about that big. So they're not the super micro ones, but they are smaller tomatoes, so that when you pick them, they're just the right size to put them in your salads and not really have to spend a lot of time cutting them up because they're already bite-sized, which is good. So it's really a nice sized tomato. It's a sweet tomato, and it really helps your salads taste wonderful. So let's take a look here. I'm going to be transplanting this tomato from here into this pot here. This is a larger size pot, and as you can see, there's already some potting soil in it, and it's a very light potting soil. It's called Promix, so that's what I have in here now. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some fertilizer in this. When these first started to grow and they got true leaves, I did water it with some Miracle-Gro fertilizer. That was after the first 2 weeks when it got the second set of leaves. So when I transplant it, because it's going to be growing a little bit in that pot, and to try to keep down transplant shock, I'm going to put some bone meal in here to feed it, because it's time for it to get another feeding of food. So let's take a look here. I'm going to empty this pot, take this out of here. It's got a really nice root system on it. It also has 3 tomatoes growing in here. Now normally, if you have more than 1 or 2 tomatoes in a pot, you want to clip one of those tomatoes to keep them from being too close together. But what I did was I purposely planted 3 tomatoes in here, and all 3 came up. That's because I wanted to separate them and have them grow individually. So it looks like this, if you can see in between there. This is one, and that's one. So I'm going to see if I can gently separate these to go in separate pots. So let's see here. It's 1 and 2. So now I've got 3 individual plants. And I'm going to put some bone meal in here. And this is just a teaspoon of bone meal. Here we go. And with that bone meal, I'm going to move it around in here and just scratch it into the soil, just a little ways down, so that once I do put this plant in here, it will be able to get to the nutrients that I just put in there. So we're going to do this, push that around. And with tomatoes have a root system that actually grows right out of the stem. So you can bury tomatoes a bit deeper than what you would normally for something else, because the roots will adhere to the dirt and start to grow, even though it's buried deeper than you normally would bury something. Now that's as deep as I'm going to bury that. Okay, and I've firmed the soil around it, so it's got good contact with the soil. So we're going to put this one over here. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And it's really nice that this actually did grow 3 tomato plants in it. And I'll swish that around, because I'm committed to growing a little bit more. I'll put a little bit more here. a little bit more this year than I did last year. Just because of the times that we're living in, it's a good idea to grow more this year than you normally would. So you'll have it on hand and be able to use it for emergencies, or if you need it long term, you'll have enough for long term. So I just planted this one in there. I planted it pretty deep too. And that's what this one looks like. And then we'll plant this one as well. I'm going to put some bone meal in here. Yeah, the bone meal provides a lot of calcium to the plant and phosphorus. And tomatoes do need a lot of calcium in order to grow strong and healthy. So it will get calcium from this soil. Okay. That's what this one looks like in there. Now I'm going to do, that one still got some in it. Okay. Spread that around. Okay. So I'm going to put this in the sink so that I can wash it, because I'm going to refill that later. And I'm going to put labels in here. Tiny Tim tomato for each one of these so that I'll know what I have where. All right. And I did the same thing with this one. This one has 3 tomatoes in it as well. I don't know that that little one is actually going to make it. I'll take it out and see what its condition is. So one thing about these pots, they're plastic, but they're pliable enough so that you can bend them. It's not a hard plastic per se. And we'll go over here. And I just watered these this morning, so they're not really solid in here. So then take a look at these. This one is very small, and then there are 2 here. 1, 2. So I'm going to separate these and see what we can do here. And we've got a lot of extra soil that it's hanging on to. All right. So we'll move these over here. And I'm going to go ahead and put some bone meal in this one too. And if you're wondering, the type of soil that I have in here, I've started using Pro Mix this year. It's different from what I used last year. And hopefully I'll get better results with my plants using the Pro Mix for soil. That's yet to be seen, but we'll hope for the best. I've heard good things about Pro Mix, so I'm looking forward to an even better yield this year. So we've got that one there. Here's another one. So have you started your tomatoes, or have you started anything at this point? What is your status for the growing season so far? I know it's early, but for a lot of areas, it's actually a good time to plant. So let me know, what have you planted? If you haven't planted tomatoes, did you plant something else? And how much planting do you intend to do this year? Are you going to do more or less than last year? Put a note in the comments and let me know. And then this one is the last pot. We'll do the bone meal in here to feed it. Okay. That's so nice and soft, this soil is. I like the fact that it's airy and easy for plants to grow through this particular medium. So I'm looking forward to very healthy plants. All right. That's what this one looks like. Well, we started out with a pot that had 3 tomatoes in it. The second pot had 3 tomatoes in it. We divided those and wound up with 6 tomatoes. They're all bush tomatoes that are only going to grow to be about 3 feet tall. So I'll be able to harvest from those pretty soon. According to the package here, it takes 45 to 65 days for it to mature, and it's already a month old. So it won't be long now before it gets to the point where I should see some tomatoes on it and we'll be able to harvest. Well, thanks for going along with me on this journey today. I appreciate you coming with me. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. If you have any questions, put your questions in the comments. In the meantime, have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.